Some of you might be praying for breakthrough while running from the very thing God told you to do. And the scary part is your disobedience may not only be affecting you, it may be affecting people connected to you as well. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Taylor, and we've been talking about obedience and the hard truths that come with it. And today, this brings me to point number 8. The hard truth about obedience is that your obedience can be connected to someone else's deliverance, and your disobedience can negatively impact other people too. So, my questions for you today is, who is your obedience connected to? Who is your yes connected to? Because our gifts are not just for us, and our life is not just our own. Our yes is not just for us, it's for other people too. But when we keep what God placed on the inside of us, others are not able to be partakers in the fruit of our life. So if your obedience and your yes is connected to someone else's healing, deliverance, and breakthrough, that means your disobedience also impacts others. And this is a part about obedience that a lot of people don't talk about. We make it so personal that we forget it's also connected to a purpose beyond us. There are people tied to your assignment. There are people tied to your voice. There are people connected to your obedience. Somebody is waiting on the version of you that finally says yes to God completely. And sometimes we think disobedience only looks like rebellion, but sometimes it looks like delay. Sometimes it looks like fear. Sometimes it looks like overthinking. Sometimes it looks like constantly asking God for confirmation about something He already told you to do. And if we're honest, delayed obedience can feel safer because it makes us feel like we still have control. But partial obedience and delayed obedience are still disobedience. And I think about Jonah. God told Jonah to go to Nineveh, and instead, Jonah ran the opposite direction. But what's powerful is Jonah's disobedience didn't only affect him. Everybody on the boat started feeling the effects of a storm connected to his rebellion. So one person's disobedience created chaos for other people around them. And I really want people to catch this because sometimes we're asking God why things feel heavy, why relationships feel strained, why there's confusion and frustration around us. And sometimes it's because we are fighting the very thing God told us to surrender to. Jonah thought he was running from an assignment, but you cannot outrun purpose. You can't outrun what God has called you to do. And eventually, Jonah had to come face to face with the reality that his obedience was connected to an entire city hearing from God. Some of us don't realize that delayed obedience still impacts people, and avoiding what God told you to do affects more than just you. And I know this message can feel weighty, but I don't want you to hear this from a place of condemnation. I want you to hear this from a place of responsibility. Because when God places something inside of you, it was never meant to die in you. There is someone who needs your story. There is someone who needs your voice and someone who needs your obedience. And then you look at Esther. Esther had a moment where she could have stayed silent, she could have stayed comfortable, and she could have stayed safe. But Mordecai told her, "Who knows whether you have come to a kingdom for such a time as this?" And Esther's obedience literally became connected to the deliverance of an entire people. And I think that's the scary thing about purpose sometimes. Purpose will require you to speak when it would be easier to stay silent. Purpose will require you to move when fear is telling you to stay comfortable. Esther could have talked herself out of it. She could have said, "I'm not ready. What if I fail? What if people reject me?" But imagine what would have happened if she allowed fear to silence her obedience. What if your yes is bigger than you think it is? What if the video, the business, the ministry, the conversation, the prayer, the book, the program, or the idea God gave you, what if someone's breakthrough is on the other side of your obedience? And I know it's hard because obedience usually costs something. Sometimes it costs comfort, sometimes it costs your image, sometimes it costs relationships, sometimes it costs fear. But obedience also opens doors for other people to encounter God through your life. Even Moses kept trying to tell God that he wasn't qualified. He would say things like, I don't speak well, or send someone else. And if we're honest, a lot of us sound just like Moses. We keep telling God all the reasons why we can't instead of trusting him with our yes. And we say things like, I'm not ready, or I don't know enough, or what if nobody supports me? What if I fail? What if people judge me? But imagine if Moses would have completely refused to go. There were people in bondage connected to his assignment. There were people waiting for deliverance connected to his obedience. And that's why the enemy fights obedience so hard, because obedience threatens bondage. It threatens cycles and it threatens stagnation. The moment you fully say yes to God, it doesn't just shift your life, it can shift generations. That's why you can't afford to keep minimizing what God placed inside of you, because your yes carries weight. And I really feel this strongly. Don't look at obedience as just rules and restrictions. Obedience is stewardship, it's surrender, it's understanding that God can trust you with what he placed inside of you. Somebody may never enter the room God called them into because you refused to walk through the door he told you to open first. And I want to encourage someone watching this right now. Don't wait to feel perfectly confident before you obey God. Most of the people in the Bible obeyed while they were still afraid. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's saying yes to God even while fear is trying to sit in the room with you. So your obedience matters and your yes matters. And your surrender may be the answer to somebody else's prayer. So if this video spoke to you, let me know in the comments and meet me back here next week. Thank you so much for watching. If this video helped you, go ahead and like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more.